Hello, Sid here, and welcome to the Drunken Ork. Now in this episode, I'm not going to be building something new. Well, no, I am going to be building something new, but I'm going to be building it out of something old, which I built some time ago, and quite frankly, I don't like anymore. In fact, I don't think I ever liked it. Didn't quite hit the mark, as it were. So what we'll do is, we'll get straight into the build video, and I'll explain more there. So here we've got a Malkador tank, and I've done this as an Ork Killtank with an extended front, but do you know what? I've never been happy with it. I've done it a long time ago, and it's just never really been... It's always been my least favourite model that I've done. It's just not tall enough. Now comparing it to a Forge World Killtank in size, and bearing in mind this Forge World Killtank does not have the dozer blade on the front, it's not a bad count size wise. It's wide enough, it's long enough, but it is not tall enough. And that gun's a bit feeble as well, to be fair. Look at the height there on a Killtank. It's a big old chunky beast. So we're looking at 4.5 inches. And I forget this little lowrider. It's just over 3. That's just not good enough. So, turret comes off. And it's finally time to try and improve this. So, I'm going to take it apart. There's a few decent bits on here I want to save. Some bits are easier to take off than others. Now this is exactly how you dismantle a model. By using the heel of your hand to hammer a scalpel into the join lines. Don't do this at home. Now the sponsons on the side are magnetised. So I've taken this apart. Although I have left the Goliath dozer blades on the front. And I put the track guards back over the tracks as well. So it's time to start building it up. And to do this, I'm going to use some plasticard. I know, shocking, isn't it? So I've cut a couple of sides and the back out with some 2mm plasticard. It's nice and thick and it'll be a nice solid base for us to work on. And we're going to use the original top of the tank as the top of the tank. So I'm going to glue the sides and the back on, and then just to hold it in place whilst the super glue fully dries, I'll use a couple of these little G clamps, which are pretty useful just to have knocking about. Although you only really need them for the first side, because by the time you put the second side and the back on, they start supporting each other and it's a lot more secure. Just sketching out a few of the lines to see where I'm actually going to be applying the glue to. Just saves us coating the whole thing with a 4-inch brush and super glue. Not what I would do that, of course, that would be madness. Now whilst that's fully drying, which to be fair doesn't take long at all, I'm going to work on the gun. So I'm getting a couple of 25mm bases here, and I'm just hitting them up with a sanding stick just to take that GW textured base pattern off. Once I've got the base smooth, I'll drill a few holes into the centre of the base, and then with a scalpel I'll carve out a circular hole. Now this is to fit a bit of plastic tubing which is going to act as the middle of my main gun. And I'm going to build this kill tank with the big blaster cannon, not the multi-shot giga shooter. Then just glue those into place. Once I've got that done, I cut 2 lengths of plastic tubing, one of which slides snugly into the other, and I'm going to use that as the outer barrel. I want the 2 different thickness lengths because it gives a feel of a sort of a recoil dampener when you've got one piece that slides into another. The original Killtank gun's got a lot of that going on and it looks pretty good. Now whilst I'm looking at the front here and this sort of little driver slot, I'm thinking I've maybe made a mistake with the sides. I'm quite happy with the right hand side, but the left hand side doesn't really look like it's going to work. So I'm going to need to trim that a bit. So I've sketched out the part of the left hand side that I want to cut away, and with my trusty utility snips I cut that away. An absolute doddle. I'm going to add a flat bit to the left hand side here, as there's going to be a bit of a utility deck to the side of the driver's compartment. So make a little mark and cut a notch out, and that'll just give us a little bit more surface area to key that little flat piece on. Once that's glued in place, I can take the piece I removed from the left hand side and add that more centrally, which will box in the driver compartment. And then I'll use a ruler just to make sure that all the angles are perfectly in line with each other. And if they're not, well, there's nothing I can do to fix that, to be fair. And I don't really care because it's Orks way. That's looking alright to me. So that's where the gun's going to go. Surprise, surprise, I know, gobsmacked. If you can think of a better place for it, let us know in the comments. Although I will disagree. So to that end, I've stuck a big slab of armour on the front with a big oval cut out, and that is just so the gun can stick in and not point up at some sort of ridiculous angle and point in some way forward. I like that. You probably have noticed there's a great gaping hole there just above the Goliath rock grinder bit and the bit I've just added. So in order to fix that, instead of cutting a ridiculously weird shaped piece of plastic card, I've just cut lots of big rectangular slabs, and I'm just going to put those on like a little fence. Although it's actually a very durable bulkhead, I'll have you know. It just looks a bit like a fence. So it's this 2mm plastic card. I'm going to rough it up, not with a saw blade, which would be silly, but with a grinding wheel on my Proxxon. Or Dremel, if you have a Dremel. If you don't, you can do it with a knife. Just be careful, it takes a bit more time. But with the grinding wheel, you just go over it, just take off that nice sharp 90-degree, corner. You don't want that. Be a bit irregular. Dig the wheel in every now and again to get a little sort of divot in there. And then once you're finished, the plastic burrs just rub off with your fingers. And then I'm just super gluing them to the front. I'm using a pair of needle nose tweezers here, one of the ones with the bends in. I find them a lot easier to use, and I use these tweezers when using super glue for little fiddly bits like this because I have hands like cow's tits, and if I didn't, I would glue all my fingers and thumbs into some sort of weird flipper. Not even two flippers, a mono flipper, left and right combined at the wrist. So yeah, it's probably best to avoid it if you can. It's easy peasy when you have tweezies. Yeah, I need to work on that slogan. But I stuck a few side pieces on here as well, and you can see the damage that the grinding wheel's done. Just makes it look a bit more, not so much worn, but damaged. Now to box in the driver compartment, I've made this little slab of a window. Again, just 2mm card with a wonky window and frame added. Put some dags on the bottom, and I've made a mesh windscreen just by sticking a bit of plaster scrim tape to the back. I've also cut the top at an angle, and that's just so it fits into the top section a little bit neater. We'll glue that in place. Now this gun, where it sits, I'm not keen on it. I don't like it. So I think I'm going to make some sort of housing which will connect the gun to the hull itself. Yeah. So to do that, I cut a circular hole in a bit of plastic card the size of the gun barrel. Now I do that by tracing round the barrel, and then I just drill lots of little holes. Use a little wooden block to protect my cutting mat where I can. I mean, the cutting mat, as you can probably see, has seen better days, but it's like my 4th or 5th one or something. I go through about 2 or 3 a year, so I try not to damage them, but sometimes it can't be helped. But anyway, as you can see, I've cut some holes in, and then I'll use some snips or a knife just to sort of like cut most of that away. And once you've got the majority of it away and actually get a blade in there comfortably, you can carefully carve around the actual outline. You're probably fully capable of cutting out a hole. You might have a better way of doing it. You do you. And I'm not using this full piece of card, mind. I've left the rest of it on just because it's nicer to hold than just one little fiddly bit. There we go. Once we can get the barrel through, we know we're done. I'll have a bit of a tidy up and then I'll snip that off to the size I actually want. And that's where it'll go. I'm now checking the width of this just so I can cut another section for the top of this housing. Is it housing? I don't really know what it is. It's just going to be a little triangular hut thing basically. So again, I trimmed one edge of that to a slight angle. That'll just help it fit nicer against the sloped front. And glue that in place. And then it's just a matter of marking out the angle on the side pieces. I'm roughing those up a little bit with a knife before I put them in, because if I do it after I put them in, it'll be bloody difficult to get to them. And similarly with the other side. Now I've cut a few incredibly short sections of L-shaped plastic bar here, just to make some little brackets, which I've then used to attach the housing to the actual hull itself. I added some extra armour plates, just some little scraps of plastic card with some PVC putty rivets, and I cut some little squares which I weathered up and stuck to the top in a checker pattern. Put some more of those PVC rivets around the window frame, and I put some diamond plate flooring on that flat section, as well of course adding a few extra bits and bobs like a little wall, some vents, armour plates, as well of course a scorcher and viewing port on that left hand side. It was just a bit of plastic rod which was cut to size, squeezed in the gap, and then had those things stuck to the front of it. At that height and that angle, I'm not sure how much use a scorcher will be. Now here, for purely aesthetic reasons, I've decided to cut a big old split down the side of the cannon. Of course, if you're going to have a big old split, you better fix it. So a couple of metal braces, chucked over that and then bolted in place. Brilliant. And I'm going to stick some more armour plates on as well. Now this thing had track guards at the rear, but the tracks at the front are quite vulnerable as far as I'm concerned. When it's coming straight at you, you can see directly onto those front track facings, which means they're a prime target and a vulnerable spot. Now we can't be having vulnerable spots on this. So I've made these little track guards for the front, just 2 thick bits of plastic card, trimmed to fit at an angle, and then I've decorated them up just with some checks and some cuts and damage. I've also got this nice little resin Badmoon face which came from Ramshackle Games, so I've stuck that on, and I've stuck some more of those L-shaped brackets on because 1, they look really nice, and 2, they do actually help the guard glue to the side of the tank. And look, I made one for the other side as well. Ooh. And that's also got some checks on. Checks on. And that's where they're going to go there. Quickly show you a bit more at the front. Been adding some rivets. And on the back, because I just had to get this done because I wasn't really looking forward to it, I've used the top half of a Sherman Toon tank. And then I've covered out with armour plate. I've given it a new turret hatch. And then I've just armour clad the bits to the side, including adding some fuel tanks for something or other. I like to think it's for the Ork's onboard soda stream. If you don't know what a soda stream is, ask your mum or dad. Now the hole at the top of the tank chassis, where you normally have a little gun, I'm going to fit some sort of exhaust there, I think. Anyway, let's get these track guards glued in place. And then all I've got left to do is the rest of the sides. The 2 biggest faces on the whole fucking thing. Speaking of the sides, I'm going to put this on. Big old Badmoon glyph. So I've sketched out a Badmoon face on some 2mm plastic card. And some details on it as well, which I've mostly rubbed off with my thumb, not on purpose. And with that, I'm just going to cut out some more bits of plastic card and basically build that up. I've done similar stuff to this before. I think it looks great, and then you can put rivets all over it as well, so it looks like it's just some proper orgy metal art. So I'll build up the main features like the nose, the lip, the fangs, the eyebrows, cheekbones, that sort of thing. And Then I'll just fill in the rest as well with just scraps of plastic card that fit the profile. Now here on the side of the truck, you can see where it's going to go. I've put this weird shaped bit of plastic card on there. That's because the moon will fit perfectly over it. And you can see I've also started putting some armor plates on the front as well. Need to fill in all these bits around the side though. There's the moon. So I've done some weathering around the edges as well, and I'm pretty pleased with how that's come out. So now I get some Vallejo plastic putty, and I'm just going to dot on some rivets. Now whilst I'm doing this, I'll just tell you that I was originally going to put some sponsons on the side. It's already got sponsons on the original tank, you know, down by the track level, but I wanted some up above as well. But I've decided against it because I want this giant moon on the side, and that would make it too lopsided if I had them on one side and not the other. Now when I'm showing you the sides, if you do see any grey bits which don't immediately leap out as GW plastic bits, then they're more than likely from Ramshackle Games. Curtis does some fantastic armour plates, already roughed up, loads of, I mean basically ramshackle, they're overlapping, there's bars, there's bolts, and they're great just for filling these sorts of spaces in, where you've got a big flat area that you just want covering. Whack one of those on, brilliant. You can see them there with the wires coming out. You can also see I've finished the rest of it. Put all the armour cladding on around the moon shape, a couple of viewing ports, they're ramshackle, and then the moon just clips into place. I mean obviously I'm going to glue it. The wires on here are basically just 2mm gardening wire. Drill a hole, little offcut of plastic tube to act as a socket, put the garden wire in, bend it round, do the same at the other end, done. Let's get that moon glued in place. And there's the other side. As you can see I've done the front bit, just need to do the back bit. Now to fill this, I'm going to use this, because I get quite a lot of these knocking around my bits box. It's the hard case piece off the battle wagon kit, so I want to stick that on. Now obviously, I don't want it sitting away from the body of the tank. I want these leg bits cut off, so I get the saw, and I cut them off. Then I rough it up a bit with a good solid utility knife. I use my mate Stanley, and with a few cuts, there we go, make some nice damaged sections on it. And there it is, glued in place. Well, I do need to fill the middle of it in. Now for the top, I've decided to make a little hut. So I've started off with this pyramid shape, just made out of plastic card. And as this is going to be the roof, and I do like a little bit of old school Ork vehicle, know what's, I'm going to tile it. Now in the past I've used card for this, and just cut little tiles and had them overlapping like tiles do. But in this case I'm going to tile it in a more brickwork fashion. I just like the look of it. So I'm putting these tiles on, and I'm having them overlap the edges. Then once they're fully dried in place, I can just go with a pair of snips and cut along, removing any overhang. And once I've got all the tiles on, I then put a little cap on top with some thicker plastic card, so it looks like a cap, and I've put a metal rod in there, and as you can see, I added a little arrow and a moon just to act as a weather vane. Put some rivets along the bottom of the cap as well, just so I'll paint that bit in metal and it looks like a lightning conductor weather vane style adornment. But this has to go on something. So I've cut a square of plastic card the size of the flat section on the top of the tank. I've added 4 corner posts, and round the bottom of that I am attaching some wooden planking, or as you may know them, coffee stirrers. Do that with a little bit of super glue. Once I've finished the bottom rows of boards, and I'm recording this bit for the 4th time because the last 3 times didn't make any sense to us, I'm starting to see the benefit of a script. But what I do here is I cut 4 little tabs of plastic card which I glue on the inside of each wall. And this is just to give me a mounting point for the next layer of boards, because instead of being one board per side, I want 2 half boards per side. I'm just going to stick a very basic graphic up to show you what I mean, because I still don't think that sounds too clear. There, like that. And you've seen this before, it's probably got a name, I just don't know what it is. Once I've got those 2 rows of boards done, I then add a 3rd row of boards, but this one I've got lying horizontally like a shelf. And I've put a couple of right angle triangles cut from plastic rod under each shelf just to give it extra support. Then it's just a matter of gluing some orky shooters to it. Now I'm not going to put the full orcs in here, because there's only going to be a little slit you can see them from. So I'm just gluing the shooter arms on, and I've actually snipped a bit off the top of the arm as well, so it'll take up even less space. Cunning, I know. Gives us a chance to use some of those resin shooter arms I've acquired over the years as well. I'm putting 2 of these shooters per side, so it's going to be 8 in total. Once I've got the arms in place, I'll stick another board above them which denotes the top of the firing slit. Now, despite everything being cut and measured, the roof doesn't exactly fit very snugly, so I had to do a little bit of bodging work to get that done. Just scraping a steel rule over the top here so I can find out all the little blemishes. And I'll hit that up with a little bit of sanding just to make it as smooth as possible. I put this plastic tube in the centre that acts as a support and to block out some of the light going all the way through and showing you the fact that there's nothing inside it. Turned out absolutely pointless, no need for it whatsoever. There you go, a little shooter hut. And as you can see here, you can still see quite a bit through the firing slit, which I wasn't too keen on. I'll make a few changes to that, I'll show you in a second. But you can also see I used the end of the original gun, which, like I said at the start, was weedy and pathetic. That turned into an exhaust sticking out the back. So that was basically the build. I did do a little bit more to the hut. There it is. As you can see, it's still separate for magnetising. Just, I don't know what extra height that adds, you know, for transportation, but I thought, why not? And I tell you what, we'll go to the desk down cam and we'll have a look. So here it is. You can see I've painted it up as well. That's the front with the little glyph plate on. You see I basically added some planking, some vertical planking above the shelf, and that was just to block in those firing slits. On the bottom, which hasn't been painted, there's actually, I cut a hole in the middle. I tried to get a magnet. Slit in, so I bust a hole in the back there, but I couldn't get it to work, so I had to patch that hole up. As you can see, I've done so very awkwardly with one bit of metal, and with that hole gouged in, I just stuck some magnets to this square of plastic card and stuck that on the bottom, and it just means that I magnetise it to the top of the tank. And you can also see there's a little bit of cocktail stick sticking out there. That matches the hole I drilled in the tank, and it just means that when it's magnetised on top, it doesn't spin and rotate. It just holds it in place. There we go. Very old school orc. And I love it. So while we're here, let's have a look at the rest of the kill tank. As you can see, it has been painted. Really pleased how this turned out. I love that big glyph. I love the look of the front of it, nice and heavy. I love the damaged cannon. I do wish that you can see this little yellow strip here. That's actually the wider barrel part, and it goes back about an inch and a half into there. I wish I'd maybe had that run a little bit higher up, and then maybe had a larger one again, so it's more concertinaed. But you know, that's the detail with which I filled out that battle wagon hardtop. There's one solid piece with some dags on, and like I don't know what that is actually. It's not actually part of the model kit. I think it's off. It's a plastic cap off something anyway. Not a bottle, but like off some piece of furniture, I think. And I just stuck that on. That's a little bit of a tank wheel off a Toon tank, and then just some, you know, armour plates around the side. Lots of wires. See, that's just the gardening wire, and as you can see here, there's a little bit of plastic tubing there, and a little bit of plastic tubing at the other end. And it just looks like a socket where it plugs into, and I've done that on all of them. The checks really pop. I'm pleased with them. So with the little tower on, it's a fair old height. I'm very pleased with this. I'd have to give it a 8.5 out of 10 for how pleased I am. Whereas when it was just the Maltador with the front bit on, whoa, a 2, a 1.5 maybe. I wasn't very pleased at all with that because I just painted the Maltador tank like orcs. I managed to keep the front grinder bit, which I'm very pleased about. And of all that front section I built, that armour panel, and that armour panel with a little service door, and of course the tracks underneath. It's worth mentioning the tracks underneath were off an old 80s Rhino. And it was one side of the tracks, and I just cut them in half and then scored it to bend the flat track section here up around the wheel, and ditto on that side. But yeah, Killtank! Like I said, I'm very pleased with how it came out. It's a good size. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit narrower than the Forge World, or the ex-Forge World, or the Forge World Killtank that Forge World don't do no more, for reasons. It's already in Legends, so God knows how long it'll stay there for. Might not even be in 11th. But you know what? I don't care. Look at it. It's cool as fuck. Yeah, I play the odd sort of like large scale game where we use all of the so I hope you enjoyed it. It just goes to show that if you do build something and you don't like it, just go back to it. It sometimes feels a little bit of a foreign concept, certainly to me, to go back to something. And once I've drawn a line under it. But with that old Killtank, the Maltador Killtank, I was never happy with it. I never used it in a game. I didn't want to. I didn't want to get it out on the table. I like getting out stuff on the table that I'm proud of, that I enjoy. And that just wasn't it. But now, yes. Yes, it will be. I'm pleased. I'm glad I finally got around to doing that. That was 5 years in the making, that revisit. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. I'll get back to you. And don't forget to give the bell a little tickle. I've got more stuff in the works. Just checking out behind us in case I haven't left it out there. I haven't. That's good. So I'll leave you with a couple of pics that I intend to put on Instagram. And until next time, ta-da. So proud. This is how we do it. What am I thinking? Fucking how do you... There we go. Is that many cameras? Still here. Can't say that. You fucking idiot. Oh, you put a side down, you silly sausage.